Stop banging your mic.
Hi, Joanna.
Hey, Jen. Hey.
Joanna, I'm so excited because today's episode is a reunion with Giordana Giovannoni and Callie Albrecht,
Nailed it.
thank you, who we did our Betreat women's retreat in Tuscany with this past September. And we are here to talk about all the beautiful magic that transpired, was created, and continues to flow since that unbelievably fabulous event. And so I'd
Yes.
like to start with first introducing our two beautiful guests. Callie, who's the villa owner and also a yoga teacher and also encompasses all other kinds of magic. And Jordana, who is a tarot reader, a painting teacher, a plant medicine specialist, and does so many other amazing, wonderful things with our food and wine. Callie, why don't you start us off? Give us a little rundown about you, the villa, and what you do there.
Amazing. Hi, Jen. Hi, Joanna.
Hi.
And ciao.
Hi, welcome.
Hi. Oh my God, it's great to just be here with you and connect in this virtual realm. I just had the most amazing time with you girls. We all came together. It felt very serendipitous. As Jen said, yes, I'm the owner of Macchione, which is the name of the villa in Tuscany. And it's a place that's pretty special. It's a place that is still a labor of love, a renovation project. And it was somewhere that came into my life at a point when I was very much at a crossroads. Myself and my husband had had a stop the bus, I want to get off moment with our previous life and existence. And we were looking for a project, and the project ended up being Macchione, which was this huge, crazy renovation. Basically a tumble down but incredible spot in the middle of Tuscany. And neither of us were equipped, experienced, ready for the adventure ahead of doing what became a 7-year renovation. But there were a few things that were driving it. And one of them, for me, principally, was to create a place where retreats could take place. Because I had been in love with yoga for many years, a student of yoga, had become a teacher. And I just was really, I felt and still do feel very, very strongly about the power of creating these experiences. And Macchione was the place where that all came together. And actually you guys being there felt like some sort of full circle of that. Because one of my huge intentions was to create a place where I could attract amazing, inspiring fellow teachers, creators, women like you. And yeah, that's that part of the journey.
I'm glad you shared that part, Callie, because that feeling when you are standing in the realization of something that was once just a vision, a dream, a prayer, a wish, that feeling is so satisfying. And too often we rush through it without feeling like, whoa, this was once a dream and now it's our life. And for everyone listening, you've had those feelings when you met someone and they were never a friend. They were instantly like a soul sister, a best friend, someone you felt like you've always known. And I jokingly would say that we all four worked so well together because we were the perfect kind of complementary good witch. But please don't by now people should know my language, and my use of witch should not horrify them. If they does, sorry, probably wrong podcast, will be way more horrifying in the future. But that feeling of the law of association, of the people with whom you spend the most time, you become the average of that, of the 5 people with whom you spend the most time. So when you gather these souls that are amazing, whether hosting the experiences or coming to have them themselves, you're creating masterminds. And since it's fully immersive, that balance of energy is even more important. So the fact that, Callie, you're a brilliant teacher of yoga yourself is already a gift, but how you hold space in the whole villa. And listeners, much to Callie's surprise, she is this tiny little thing. She thinks she's like 6'4", but she's this tiny little thing, and she can energetically hold space for the entire content of the villa, every soul contained. It is a real gift. So we found Callie by luck, hope, happenstance, and really by Jordana. So
Luck.
Jordana, I was calling you luck and hope. I was
Okay.
giving you a lot of praise there, woman.
Thank you.
Now introducing luck, hope, and happenstance. Jordana, tell everyone your whole life story.
Oh my God.
In 5 minutes or less.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm a New Yorker, as are Jen and Joe. I don't know where this British girl got into the mix of everything, but I
Thank God
grew
she
up
did.
in a very, very vibrant family. My mom was an astrologer. My uncle was an amazing painter who painted with Picasso and Dali and Chagall and Matisse, et cetera, et cetera. And I just grew up out of the box and really to following your dreams and following your insanity, pretty much, and really not giving a fuck about what the world thinks about it. So I was very much validated by my mom to follow your, or actually be in touch with your intuition, my and in touch with your inner voice, which she really much, very much nudged me along the way as I got older, and especially in relationships. So having so I grew up with a lot of psychics. I grew up her bringing me on different type of energy boards. I imagine that they were Reiki healers at that time. So the spiritual side has always been very vibrant. And yet I also I ended up in the food and wine industry, specifically the Italian food and wine industry, where I met my husband, who's also the chef for the retreats that we do. And so I do a lot of different things that are very let's say, not normal, witchy, as Joe likes to call it. But I also, I guess the most normal thing I do is I work with, it's people coming to, I work with visitors to Italy, and I work specifically in the food and wine industry here as well. I teach painting classes at the Casion del Bosco in Montalcino, the Rosewood, and I also teach herbalism classes there as well. And I met Callie because we both live in this small town in Italy. And how could we not meet? I mean, just magnetically wise. And we became pretty instant BFFs. And we have a really amazing group out here of very supportful women, all international and really brilliant and amazing. And I'm actually wish that you two were out here as well, because it was pretty amazing having you guys here. So it was inevitable that we started working together, Callie and I. She started actually working with my husband first. And then I came in and I also do painting classes for guests at her villa. Actually, I brought her first clients to the villa for a month, and so we handled all of their food and their activities. So I do herbalism classes for her retreats, and I also do yoga classes. And then, I mean, I don't know if I should go into how I met Joe, but um,
Do it. Do it.
Joe was the daughter of, when my parents divorced, she started dating Joe's dad. So Joe and I have known each other since I was like 7 years old, something like that.
And
So
for our listeners, if you've heard me share the story of the book that I wrote about my relationship with my teacher, Tao, my book is called My Guru Wears Heels. And in it, it will talk about this amazing woman in my life who always gave me, she was like my life coach before I had a term for it. That was Jordana's mom. So this powerhouse of a woman who encouraged everyone, but especially women, to find their voice, use that voice, find it early. It was amazing to have her in my life at such a young age, and then continued as an adult. And through Jordana's mom, she brought us back together. So we got to hang out and work together in our 20s in New York City. And from that, to see where and how all of our friends from that part of life have branched out has been a really cool unfolding. So years later, my dude and I go, my Mike, for you, Callie, not Jen's Mike, my Mike. We go on a trip to Napa, and Jordana and her husband, I joke that they are anywhere there is excellent food and wine. They were in Napa at the time, so we hooked up with them then. And then a year ago, we were planning a trip to Italy, and my sister-in-law casually asked, "Do you spend so much time there, Joe? Do you have anyone who can help us plan a trip in Tuscany?" And I was like, "No, that's not the region that I have the most contacts with." No, and then I was thinking, I go, "Wait a minute, what is wrong with me? Not only do I have the person, I have the perfect person. She lives in Italy, but is from New York. So there'll be no language barrier. She knows everything about food and wine. She can help us schedule our itinerary." So that happened in a trip a year ago. And because of that, it gave enough foreshadowing to envision what was already in Jen and my heart, leading a retreat in general. And then all the pieces came together where it fell specifically to Italy, to Tuscany, to that region. And Jordana said, yes, we can do this. We could do painting again. We could do pasta making, but I have a person for you and a space for you that is already set up for exactly what you're picturing. And so you were the matchmaker that made all of this happen. And I would say it took less than 24 hours before we were all obsessively in love and a perfect fit.
Well, I mean, the Zoom call happened pretty quickly right after that. And it was so interesting because I had no intention of going so forcefully towards Italy for our first big retreat. I thought we'd stay local and stay in our own country because, you know, that's what people do.
You're so
But not
cute, Jen.
us.
You're
Not
so
us.
cute.
We live on Joanna's unicorn and we flew right over there across the pond, straight over to Italy. But the one thing that I have to say more than anything else, it's so interesting when you follow inspired when you create inspired action in your life, when you follow divine inspiration, right? So while I had no foreshadowing of this in my own vision, Joanna did, and I just sort of went along for the ride, but little hints were dropped here and there in my life, and they just kept pointing me closer and closer to this. And then when we got there, and we met Callie first at somewhere around 10:30 at night in some Tuscan gravel road where she led us to this magical, unbelievably beautiful retreat. And by the way, we will link in our show notes the website to the villa so that you can see it in its absolute splendor. And you should, because everyone needs to go there at some
By the
point in
way,
their
I have to
lives.
say, I go into a lot of villas in Tuscany and a lot of like castles and amazing places, but there is, and that's why I didn't just tell you about Callie's place. I said, you have to go there. This is where you need to be because there's like a
Mm-hmm.
vortex there. There's a certain energy that exists when you enter that place and you don't want to leave it. I don't know. It's almost like
No,
tangible.
it's
It's
amazing.
subtle. It's soft. Like you can feel, at least I can feel it.
It
You
But
can
draws you
feel it.
in. It draws
You
you
can
in.
smell it. The lavender fields. There is a whole, it's enveloping. You're enveloped in the love, in the magic, in feeling so peaceful that you really connect with your heart song, your inner voice, and your guides. It is this space to facilitate the
I
magic.
mean, we were in Italy, right? The lighting, absolutely. Just even the outside lighting is incredible. But we were in Italy, right? So our intention when we had this retreat was to experience all the food, wine, culture of Italy, along with creating a spiritually connected environment and also creating a healing environment. And we had so many intentions for this. But to be honest with you, I mean, we stayed the first 3 days in strictly the villas because there was no reason to leave. We had Masi, who is Jordana's very talented husband, who's a chef, who was preparing our meals for us. And so we had the food and the wine and the culture because Masi and Jordana brought that in. We had Callie and Joanna, who were leading us in yoga and who were leading us in meditation. And then we had me bringing in my sound and my meditation coaching and all of our workshops together. There were so many elements that came together in the first 3 days. It was almost hard to leave to go into the world, but we did have to go and experience Italy and Tuscany in its absolute magnificence, which I'm really glad we did because it became like these field trips for our group. and everybody got to bring what they were learning and embodying and experiencing inside of the retreat outside. And the connectedness between us kept us really like sort of in our Zen state while we were still out there in the world in Italy and just living this beautiful life.
I wanted
That
to
was the perfect balance because we had a plant ritual that Jordana led that was really magical, and it connected you with your ancestral power and connection. And that was fantastic. We also had, you led us in a watercolor landscaping class. But your husband, Masi, to touch on Masi for a moment, the guy in our girl group, not only is he a gifted and talented chef, and I might have said I was going to lick his face because of the mushroom risotto. That might have happened. Sorry, not sorry. All of that is true, but he is so much more than that because he has a larger than life personality, but one that is so led with love and heart that within such a short time, he knew every retreater's name and the way that they liked their cappuccino just to make them feel so special.
You knew what milk they wanted with their coffee before I knew their names.
Yes. Yeah.
He's amazing.
And
He's amazing.
I have been chasing the Masi cappuccino since coming home. Nothing comes close. I'm chasing it like a crackhead trying to chase that crack high.
Just
That's
stop it,
like
Joanna.
it's the same. It's the metaphor. Masi's cappuccino is your crack high. That should be on a brochure somewhere. No?
That's
Maybe
definitely
sometime. We already have a Masi hashtag.
We do have a I miss Masi hashtag.
That was really good.
It's really weird.
Is it affecting his ego at all, Jordana, the hashtag?
Callie, give us a little bit of insight into. I mean, I know you also hold yoga retreats at the villa, and Jordan is also hosting a food and wine retreat with Masi at the same villa. This villa houses so many extraordinary experiences for people. But for the sake of this particular podcast, we do have 2 other retreats coming up. We have a couples retreat, and we also have that will be happening in May of 2025. And then we also have another women's retreat, which is also a sort of, we're going to be recreating Betreat, which is the name of our women's retreat, in October of next year, of 2025.
Do you know the dates, Jen Rubinetti?
Joanna, I'm going to leave that to you because I never write anything down.
I'm
just
so
book my
proud.
ticket when you tell me to.
I am so proud because I've memorized the dates. It only took about 2 weeks. But the We Treat, the couples retreat, that will be May 2nd to May 8th. Only 6 couples will be able to stay in the space. So it will be inherently intimate. We have an incredible itinerary planned that will be all of the magic of Betreat, but more playfulness, more food, and more alcohol because we were accommodating the men and we figured they do love to eat. So that one is May. October 10th to October 16th is Betreat. That will be limited to a space of 11 women. Both of them are about half full already. Oh, I said half full, ladies. I'm an optimist. And there are early bird offers that run through the end of December. So if you're interested in them, get in touch with us quickly so you take advantage of the better offers that way. And we can send you sample itineraries. The itinerary is purely magic. We set it up in such a way that it unfolds that you get more excited, more comfortable, more adventurous as the days go on. So the only difference with the couples retreat than the individuals is we will leave the magic of the villa a little bit earlier in our trip for the couples than with the women.
But Callie, so one of the things that was so sort of surprising to me, because I really arrived thinking Joanna and I were going to be solely running this, the magic of you and Jordana joining us and becoming, we call ourselves the Betreat leaders. We will now be the Betreat and the We Treat leaders. But Callie, give us a little bit of insight from your perspective. This was one of your first really spiritually based retreats. How did it feel for you? What did you love about it? Give us some highlights that really like you would like to see us repeat, and that we will absolutely repeat, because I wouldn't have changed a thing about Betreat. But go ahead and give us, and Jordana, you're next, so start thinking.
Nice. I love it. Yeah. So when we started to think about what we were going to do with Macchione, for me, having, yoga was always sort of the linchpin And of course, yoga is a very spiritual practice. But for many people, there's some resistance to thinking about yoga as a spiritual practice. And there's a more safe space for thinking of it perhaps as a body-based practice, or, a pose-focused practice. So the first retreat that I ever did there, which was October 22, it was it was a yoga with Kali retreat, which basically, my yoga is actually not very pose centric at all. And I really center the philosophy, and the mind stuff of yoga. And then everything else that we do is an exploration of that. Um, so that might incorporate doing workshops on the nervous system and the healing wisdom of the body. It might be workshops on the energy body, the chakra system. So there's all sorts of places that it goes. But you're right, I'd never called anything that I'd done a spiritual retreat before. Aside from yoga, I've done, or I've co-hosted 4 amazing writers retreats, which you also wouldn't expect it, but they weave this also spiritual element, because what I've learned and what I've seen and witnessed and lived now with many amazing people who've come on this retreat is that somebody who is setting out to write, whether it's a piece of historical fiction, their first novel, a collection of short stories, they're working on their stuff. They're working on a way of telling their story. So this sort of personal development thread, I would say, is what weaves through all of the retreats that I do. And I think that because this vortex space, I love the way Joanna calls it a vortex. I love that I have a girl gang that we can use this sort of vocab with. But it's this space that holds you, that feels safe. It feels like you can shed a layer, take off a layer, delve into your stuff, explore what's going on for you. And the building, the land, the harmony of the two together hold you very completely while you do that. And are we getting tingles?
A little bit,
big time.
And that's something that I felt that when I first stepped foot on that piece of land. And even though it was an absolute crumbling ruin, it felt like a good place to be. And it feels like a place where you arrive and you just go, you just take that full exhale. And I have seen people from all walks of life, from all corners of the globe, people who do not talk in the language of energy at all, arrive and go, wow, it feels really good here. Is it weird to say that this place has got a good energy? And I'm like, no, that's not weird at all. And people have that experience, whether they're coming for a retreat or not. But when it's a retreat, the way the space looks after you really helps you kind of unfurl and, like I say, peel back those layers. So yeah, there's been yoga focus retreats, there's been writers retreats. I do a beautiful nutrition retreat that is focused for women through perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. I do a nervous system healing retreat. That's coming up again in the spring. If people can't wait until Betreat is back in the fall or the autumn. And so, yeah, the spiritual retreat with you two was so interesting because there was so much crossover with what I have done and what I do, but there was all sorts of things that I don't usually have in my sort of toolbox. I loved the workshops, the talking workshops that we did, which were, I think I'm right in saying, sort of a show reel, a highlights of the Best Life Ever course. So we did some of the workshops that you two deliver through that course, which I absolutely loved. I think we all, the facilitators and the participants alike, got so much from those discussions. There was a lot around visualizing the life you want, manifesting, and that's language which, although I'm familiar with it, it's not language that I would necessarily use. And that was something that I absolutely loved and took so much from. And then, of course, we had just the energetics of the sound healing. That, you know, when you're in a space like that and you're working on your stuff and things come up, and perhaps things come up that might surprise you, some old stories, some you know, habits or patterns or beliefs that come up, and you really need some space and some ways to just allow it to come to the surface, allow whatever big emotions, because a lot of big emotions get felt and feeled and felt through and expressed in those experiences. And something like sound healing, we're all in a space together, and Jen holds the space beautifully, and the acoustics in the studio are phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
Phenomenal. And there's, I don't know what we were, maybe 13 of us in the space. And everybody is going on their own unique magical journey. And mine is completely different to yours. And, you know, because we have the fluidity within the schedule, there's time for, you know, a 30-minute, 40-minute discussion afterwards of like, cool, how was that for you? And it's so fascinating because, and I know this as somebody who delivers sessions, who, you know, holds the space, facilitates classes. You have maybe a template, maybe an idea of what you would like to share, but you have no idea where that's going to go and how it's going to land. And it's so beautiful because through the talking workshops, through the movement practices, through the sound healings, through the tarot, this kind of spontaneous tarot card readings that happen, this stuff comes up. Everybody's individual stuff comes up, and everybody goes on a journey. And it sounds corny as hell to use that term, but fuck it, there's no other better term for it. You go on a journey. And I always say that it's an individual experience within a shared group experience.
Yes.
And that there is so many ways that the magic gets sprinkled, and that is one of them, because we can, Machione will hold us and it will make us feel safe. We will bring ideas and workshops to the table, but the sprinkling of magic that happens when we all get together and when everybody, the participants, come with that willingness to totally show up for themselves, that's the good stuff.
Sure.
Callie, what was your funniest memory from Betreat?
Actually, Betreat was, I've done so many retreats and each one has its own character as well. This is something that's, I see, and I feel very privileged to experience many of these with many groups. Betreat was one, there was so much laughter and so much joy. The energy was high during that, while also really, you know, we were all, everybody was working through stuff and exploring things about themselves. I would say laughter and joy were just like the number one things on the menu, totally unexpected. Yes, I think you've touched on it. There were moments when I had realizations that because the joke was, and because we're doing this on a screen, I'm looking at you now thinking, yeah, we are 4 women who are all pretty much the same size because we're just 4 right now.
I will reshare the video that shows how inaccurate this is, but just how beautifully delusional Callie is for thinking we're the same size.
Yeah,
Go ahead, our little friend.
That moment of realizing that you were, I don't know, a foot taller than me, maybe?
At least.
At least. That was one of them. I think the other one was when it was maybe 7 a.m. on day 2, day 3 maybe, and we were trying to work out how to do some basic maths to prepare our beautiful cacao for the cacao ceremony. And it really, we were stumped. I mean, this was 3 very well-equipped, you know, strong, intelligent, smart women.
Educated. No, how dare we? By the way, I'm the cacao ceremony facilitator. How did I not know how to measure in Italy? I don't know why it was so hard. I'm embarrassed.
I do take exception to the notion of basic math. There's no such thing as basic math. It's all complicated as fuck.
Yeah,
Fair,
true.
fair.
So we did have so many joyful moments. You know, something else happens in retreat space. I touched on it when I mentioned, we had just a spontaneous tarot reading, because Jordana has this incredible gift, to just have her cards in her bag and, oh, you want some cards? Sure, we'll do some cards. So you have these spontaneous moments that happen, and you don't necessarily put them on the schedule. And another way that that happens is when we did start to go out on our field trips and we went out in the Betreat bus, the conversations that would happen spontaneously in the bus. So all the things, equally the things that happen around the table, the discussions, the laughter, the joy, um, you can't write those and you can't plan those. And those are all these moments that just, they really bring a retreat so much more to life than just a schedule with yoga at 9 a.m. and, workshop at 11 a.m. You have no idea all of the magic that's going to be created within and outside of those sessions.
That's true. Those schedules I learned myself ended up being more suggested guidelines, and then we sort of became much more fluid as we went through, which leads me to, I would love to talk a little bit. Actually, Callie was a perfect segue talking about the tarot experience, but then also Jordana, besides tarot, I mean, you brought a certain just calmness and magic to the space, all with just your being. And I don't know if you know that about
Well,
yourself, but there is just
I want to
something
say
about you.
something else, because I think that this part is at least overlooked, at least on my end, because I don't necessarily wear this on my sleeve, but the work that we're doing is very important work. I mean, and the one thing that I loved about it was that we're all very, very fun, entertaining, um, just we laughed our asses off. But we are also very serious people. And it's so important and so imminent with what's going on in the world right now, that women and people in general, but that we reconnect to what I feel has been taken away from us centuries ago. And that's how the ancestral work ties in too. But this reconnection of to your intuitive self, to your deeper voices, that when you live in, let's say, America, because most people are coming in from America, you're on your 9 to 5 or you're on your day-to-day grind. You don't have time to listen to those subtler tones in your body. You don't have time to, wiggle your feet and think about how that might just have affected you. You don't have time, to do all of these things that are very important. And in my belief system is a conspiracy theory that we live a life and we're not supposed to have time to think about these things. So for me, it's very important. And to create this space and in this amazing atmosphere and in a fun way um, to do this type of work. And each of us brings such a different aspect of it. And that to me was just the mind blowing part of it, because we laughed together and I laughed inside at, like, nobody is getting out of this unscathed in some way. Because if it wasn't through Joe's work, I mean, we didn't mention, like, you guys went right in for the fucking balls. Like, it starts ground zero, you know, amongst Joe's giggles. Like, everything in life is fantastic. And and then it just layers um into, you know, so many different activities. um Sorry, I have an
No,
intruder in the room. Can you please
it's
give me
okay.
just a...
We can edit it. We can edit it.
You're
Bobby.
gonna pick up Farah? Okay, fantastic.
Make a note,
And so you
3358.
start in, and then you have so many different personalities and people who really, really have so much to offer. Like, what between the cacao ceremony, between the sound healing, between, and then in the end, you know, like, if somebody wasn't crying in any of the other sessions, or it's not about crying, laughing, crying. I cried at the end. I didn't think I was going to cry. Then they came
Same.
out with Callie, and then Joe was crying, and this one was crying. It was just like hysteria in the most beautiful way of getting in
Good
touch with,
hysteria, right?
like, getting in touch with the raw feelings inside that you on your everyday are trained and encouraged to ignore. And so we invite you into this beautiful place. I mean, and of course, food and wine for me is very important. There's got to be good food. There's got to be good wine. Sorry, Callie, I'm not vegetarian. There's got to be some, you know, some, you know, I don't.
There was no
Italian,
shortage of meats.
there's no shortage of Italian food is not very vegetarian heavy or friendly,
But they were vegetarian accommodating.
Very.
Masi rocks that.
because we're not stupid people. You know, we know how to. We like vegetables too, and Masi's really good.
And pasta, and Masi's pasta and risotto were
is
incredible.
And then cook.
And much of the veggies came right from your garden. Like the layers of love that were added to everything. There was so much.
As well. Yes. So everything
Yes.
is really, really true. I grow medicine and food and forage food. And so there's just so many layers of just immensity going on there. And yet
Jordana,
it's just laughter.
One thing before, because I want us to just highlight this one thing because it was almost a surprise to me. Had I never experienced it, I may not have understood what exactly it was, but you did an incredible plant ritual with your partner who you do these sort of rituals with. If you could just give us a little sort of glimpse of what that was and what it was like and the purpose of it, just so that we can let everybody know that it exists.
Plant rituals, I work with plants, and I study the medicinal components of plants, but for me, first and foremost is the spiritual relationship with plants, which are also our ancestors. They were here before us. We come from them as well. So it is it's hard to kind of, for people who come in the retreat who maybe have no relationship to plants on that level, it's hard to put together a plant retreat and expect people to connect spiritually with the plants in that moment. But it's a much more complex ritual in that it's a ceremony kind of more, where you go through, you do breath work, you do meditation, we did dancing, we did chanting. The purpose is to shut your brain down, and is to use our body recognizes archetypes and images, and when you do the dance, when you do the chanting, even when you see the plants or you see the circular, because everything is in harmony in a circle, and then also identified with the cardinal north, south, east, and west. It triggers things inside you that your body recognizes, and that your mind doesn't necessarily know what's going on. And so you can't use your brain in the same way. And so it forces you in some way, or it invites you to go deeper to enter into the subtler places that are hard to enter when your mind is active. Because your mind, so if you're not trained how to enter into these places, then it's very hard to do unless somebody has shown you how to get there. So these are things that we do a series of activities to kind of shut the brain down. And then we enter into kind of a meditative state, and we have a kind of an intention setting. But we didn't mention there was a lot of burning. I think you guys did other burning ceremonies as well. Then you also release something with the fire, something you want to release. So you use alchemy, even with plants. I use alchemy all the time to kind of transpire, because everything that is within you exists without. Everything that is without you exists within. So there's really only a false sense of a barrier between them. So we use alchemy to kind of transpire things from within into the out. So if we want to let go of something, we burn it, and then we set an intention of something positive to come in its place. So
that's what you explained when you said, because for any listener who's now afraid, like, what are these chicks doing to me? Why am I crying? What is this alchemy? What is going to happen? The beauty of it is it's really the release that you individually are seeking, or that you didn't even know you needed. And that's why for those, we had a reunion this week, and someone said, I wrote in a letter to myself that I was experiencing more joy. And that happened the second I got to the retreat. I started laughing more. The people who cried had a tear to release. The people who laughed had laughter to express. You got out whatever you needed to get out.
Exactly.
And that's why you can have 11 different people come and have 11 different experiences, but have this safety of community and connection to foster them as they do it. I think personally, the biggest surprise, because I already knew Jordana. I've known Jen and Jordana for most of my life. Callie, I met and instantly we decided we were cousins. We were beyond friends. So we just upgraded our experience immediately. But I expected to love you guys. I expected for it to go well. I didn't expect to experience it so much as a guest and not only a host. And the beauty of having four of us do overlapping, complementary things that are all unique also enabled us to lie down and go on the sound healing, to be a part of the plant ritual, to take each other's classes. This was the first time after teaching Best Life Ever for years. People have been asking for years for an immersive version of this. And this was the first time that we were able to do it. And I thought we'd be leading it more, but we were leading it and experiencing it at the same time. And that really says so much, not about just the women who come to make it magic, but the women who gather to create it for them. So I freaking love you women.
I know. I love
And
you
we
guys.
love you guys. We love both of you. We obviously love each other, Joanna and I. But this is like a quartet now of amazingness that we're going to try to bring to every retreat in Tuscany for
And by the
years to
way, I
come.
did
So,
another sound healing and it was nothing like yours, Jen. Oh my God.
well, you're going to be very surprised because when we go back for We Treat and Be Treat, I've added some incredible new instruments that really
I
bring
bought
a whole
one
nother
because
level.
a koshi. It was meant to be.
Callie, it was meant to be. And Callie, every time you talk, I just want you to know I get insane goosebumps. So I think you're going to be my own personal goosebump guru.
Guys, the intention. Yeah. I'm not going to Google British meditation voices. The best part about leaving Italy is I get to speak Italian when I'm there, but when I come home, I have a little bit of a British accent because I imitate Callie the whole time. Like when she said, I just realized we're not the same size.
Oh, that's amazing.
Finally, apparently, guys, it took a number of people of asking her and not just one person asking a number of times. But to wrap this episode up, Jen and I originally planned we'll start with Italy and then we'll pick a new exotic international retreat spot every year. This was so special that we decided to go back here like our home every year. So thank you both. I know
Twice a year now.
it's probably like 23 o'clock where you are, right?
No, it's 4 o'clock. And by the way, for my food and wine retreat with Masi, you know, Callie's alone. She doesn't have her family. There's 2 extra bedrooms in her apartment.
Not no. It may
That's
very well
not a
may
no.
happen. It's the foundation. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you again on this podcast. I promise you that.
I love
And
your
for all of you
podcast.
listeners,
Followers.
thank you. And for all of you followers, all
All of you.
millions of you, please check our show notes. We will link everything that we mentioned here, including the villa and both Callie and Jordana's individual contacts. And we are hoping we'll see some of you at We Treat in May and Be Treat in October of 2025. And thank you. And with that, we say, Joanna.
Peace.
Ciao, ciao.